named panelists here. Welcome if you're here today and at this time you're not here for Calculus 101. That is not the learning that you have logged in to decide today. Instead, we are here to talk about Black men's mental health. And I have some phenomenal guests with us, hailing from San Diego and Los Angeles and all throughout the state. With all of you online, I even think I've seen some Chicago participants, so nationwide today, joining us to learn about this phenomenal topic. I'm going to go down my list here. And first up, I have Kendrick Dial, who's a professional creative coach and trainer whose personal mission is to find ways to blend both mental health and social justice with the arts. He's received a BA in Africana Studies and Psychology and his MSW from USC. We won't hold that against him. Go Aztecs. He served in the U.S. Navy as a radar technician and a substance abuse counselor for over 9 years. And he currently works with the Academy of Professional Excellence and is the founder of his own entity, Creative Engagement, which specializes in helping organizations develop inclusive, anti-racist, and engaging organizational culture. He approaches all of his work with curiosity, imagination, and strategy that accesses unique organizational needs with a range of different topics, including things like leadership or culturally sensitive and responsive engagement, team building, conflict resolution, which we don't need at all in this day and time, right? And so please join me in giving a round of applause and welcome Kendrick Dial to the stage. We also have Mark Sherman. We go way back, like four flats on a Cadillac. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist, an LMFT, and the founder and CEO of Momentum, which is providing individual, couple, and family therapy. He works with teenagers, young adults, couples, and athletes, helping clients build clarity, connection, and resilience through a collaborative, solution-focused approach. Before becoming a therapist, way back when I knew him, Mark spent 25 years in corporate leadership across healthcare, telecommunications, insurance, real estate, and professional services. All of this experience helps him shape becoming a people-first leader, bringing a perspective that allows him to connect with clients, navigating both personal and professional challenges. And then we have Taji in the house, our student, what we're all here for as educators. He is LA based. I'm seeing that he is a student scholar representing both the BSU on his campus and here. He's going to bring a wide variety and perspective of his own personal challenges, adversity, and successors. And we're going to learn more from the student perspective with him here today. Thank you all for being here. If you don't know, I'm 1/3 of the P2P team. My name is Sasha Knox, joined with Doctors Helly Young and Khalid White. We bring a wide variety of things, but we're hoping you know just a little bit about us. We're going to skip our bios, and I'm going to turn it over to the introduction.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for being here. I have the pleasure of doing an introduction and kind of setting the stage for why we're here. And if you recall, in 2020, there was a famous philosopher. His name is Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch. And that philosopher said, protect your mental. So in our conversation today, he said some other things, but one of the things that stuck out was protect your mental. So in our conversation today, we will explore Black men's mental health and the necessity, the importance of protecting it currently and protecting it for the foreseeable future. How to do so, to get some tips and some suggestions and some solutions. We have some professional panelists, but we also have some current student panelists that will give a perspective and vantage point on the necessity, the importance, and the application of how to protect your mental health and the importance of just Black men's mental health as we traverse through the terrain of 2026 and beyond. So without further ado, we will start asking some of our panelists or asking our panelists some of these questions that we have in store. So thank you all for being here. Let's get the show on the road.
I think I'm up next with the first question. Thank you, Dr. White, for setting the stage. Let me get myself together here. What a heck of a group of people we have on this panel today. Just so impressed. It's going to be amazing. So, what I thought we'd start with looking at the profession from the field for Kendrick and Mark. But also, Taj, feel like we want to include you in these questions, so we'll tweak them a little bit. What has been some of the highlights of your journey as Black men navigating mental health as a profession and as a student? Again, what has been some of the highlights of your journey as Black men navigating mental health as a professional and as a student? We will kick it off with Kendrick.
Alrighty. I would say for me, first off, with just probably just being in the field and bringing my complete self. I think that's been one of the things that has been very important to me, how to bring my complete self. And one of the things that initially started for me was back in the military. So I was a radar technician at first, and then realized I didn't like working with machines. And truth be told, y'all wasn't safe because I was the person in the, watching little people got a bogey coming in, and I'm reading books, listening to music. Y'all wasn't safe. So I was like, let me do something else. Let me go work with people. And so I was fortunate enough to start be a substance abuse counselor. And one of the things that happened was I was teaching like a sober living class, and in that class I would do this poem called 28 Days. That was just about the experience, and I brought in little nuances. And the participants in the rehab program asked if I would do that at our general meeting on Friday mornings when everybody, especially like the new people, were coming. And so then I began to perform that piece there. And that was one of the moments where I really saw the connection and the impact of art and mental health. And for me, it was just I felt more centered and more grounded in terms of feeling like I was bringing my complete self, because they ideally, maybe they just wanted the military aspect, and that wasn't something that felt fulfilling for me. A lot of times in professional settings, we have to cut off a piece of who we are to navigate, and that's not something that tickles my fancy, if you will. So I didn't enjoy that. So being able to kind of show up and be completely me was something that really helped me find my way throughout my experience, and which for me, which is why it was important for me to study Africana studies, Black studies, because I knew my identity was going to be the main thing that navigated all my experiences, and to have much more fulfillment and understand about my own journey from a cultural, from a manhood, from family. All those dynamics really help center me and ground me to walk the path. And I'll acknowledge this other experience that still holds very true for me. After I got out the military, I worked with Senegal Youth Services for a number of years with their counseling code program. And I was an outreach worker, so they would come into the program, get therapy, and then I would be the outreach worker to take them out to the community to kind of help them work on the things that they were working on in therapy in a more practical way. And I did that job for about 5 years, from 2007 to about 2012. And the first young man that I actually worked with, I had him from like age 14 to age 19. And so I stopped working there, like I said, around 2012. And around 2017, I remember coming out. It was such a good thing. I was coming out of a location on a Monday night. Uh, it had to be like 9, 10 o'clock, and I get a call, and it's a detective, and he's like, "Do you know such and such?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I haven't heard these two initials in quite a long time. Uh, and he says, "Would you mind coming to the Coronado Bridge because he's up here and he listed your name as somebody of support." And a part of me is just kind of tripping because, like, we may have ran into each other a couple times just in community setting, but this wasn't somebody I was talking to day in, week in, month in. But the fact that the connection that we had during the time that we did work together, he saw me as somebody that he could give in a time of crisis, in a time of need. which also is just something that just reaffirms as helping professionals. You don't know the impact that you're having on people uh, as you're navigating your experiences. Just like teachers don't a lot of times either. Like, we change lives in that manner. So went up there and they let me talk to him. He came down and then got him checked in and got him to help and support. We keep in contact. Like he has a little one. He had a little one then, but little one's older. Together, he's working. I saw him not too long ago on his birthday. Bought his first car. So it's just a beautiful experience to see this young man who I knew at such a younger age going through so many uh, challenges of life now be this young man who is able to communicate, talk through, and process his feelings and get the support he needs when he needs it, but also know how to process and navigate life situations in a real way. So that was definitely one of my highlights.
Thanks, Kendrick. Wow. Mark, if you could share
Yes,
your experience.
definitely. Thanks for having me, by the way. Appreciate being here. I guess one of my highlights as a professional is basically standing up my own business, my own therapy business, right? After being corporate America and then deciding to um, basically God spoke to me and said, I want you to be a therapist. And I was like, wait, what? I never had therapy before. What are you talking about? I don't want to do that. There's no ROI on it for me. I don't want to go back to school. After all these things, my wife was like, if God's telling you to do this, you need to do this. And I fought it for so many years. And finally I just submitted and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So getting through that process of navigating all the schooling I had to go back to do, all the certifications, all the licensures, all that stuff, it's a grueling process. It takes a while, right? And so being at the end of it and being my own business to help people that look like me is very important, right? And that is the huge highlight. And that is the reason why I'm here today to bring more awareness to the situation because there are not many of us in this field. I'm an anomaly in this space. Being a man, one, being a black man, two, I'm an anomaly, right? So not many of us. So it's important for me to be here and bring more people to this to create awareness because even when I was coming up in high school and college, I didn't go to therapy. We don't do therapy. We don't know anything about it. And I wish that I had that when I was in college because I even sustained some injuries playing sports that now I do sports psychology that I would have had. I could have used that knowledge back then to help me get through on my way to playing. So that's one of my highlights that I would share.
Wow, that's powerful. Wow. It's a calling. Whatever we do,
Yeah.
God's going to talk to you one way or the other. We can either listen or we can ignore and suffer the consequences. I love it. I love
Right.
that. Let's go to the student perspective. I think that's so important. It is again, Dr. Knox centered this conversation today is how do we support our Black men in these educational higher ed spaces, which we know, to Jazz, we know that this can be a challenge. We know it's not easy. So tell us a little bit about your journey thus far in regards to navigating your space in higher ed as a Black man.
Um, First and foremost, I'm just really appreciative that I'm here.
We
Thank you
appreciate you.
everybody for letting me come on this panel and just talk about mental health. I think navigating mental health or Black men's mental health is like very important because I just feel like we don't really speak up for ourselves because we're afraid that like we're soft or we're Black men, we don't have feelings, and that's never the case. Um, and as me going to school, going to El Camino College and working in the Black Student Union, and I sit there in the office, it's like everybody's head is down, nobody's happy. Everybody's going through like, life crisis. And I try to be like very open with like students. And most of the time it's like I see myself through them in, certain situations they've been through and it's very hard, especially just being a student and being a Black male, and having not a father figure and just having a mother and growing up trying to have a blueprint for my little brothers to let them know like, hey, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to cry, even if you're frustrated about anything, just come and talk to me. We both don't have our father figure, so it's like all we have is just brotherhood, and I feel like that's just very important, especially with mental health and Black men here, and and it's a very sentimental thing, and I'm kind of like going through my own things. I'm still trying to fight for both houses, like for my mother and then my father household, just taking care of them and take care of my mother. So it's like I'm juggling like two bricks, and it's like wow, it's really hard. But I also find it a peaceful and a grateful thing because it's a great responsibility at the end of the day. And I ask for this, like I ask and I pray for like God, give me the strength to navigate and help others. And I can't complain about the things that God has given me and the strength that God has gave me through all this. And so I just find it a blessing really to help others.
Thank you so much. That's so powerful. Yeah, wow. I'm marinating, Dr. Knox and Dr. White. This is just so grateful. Dr. Knox, I think I see you noodling on something. We've known each other a long time, and I see her noodling on something. So I'm gonna give her some space.
Yeah. First, I just want to thank you, all three of you, for your different perspectives and your stories. I have the honor of doing the next question, but I just want to, I am noodling. I am, right? I want to bring it back to Kendrick saying one of the highlights is this connection and relationship. We've been talking a lot in the last 48 hours about how um, colors of community are often communal, right? And in America, we see a lot of competition, and we generally get ahead by being a dog eat dog world. But communally, as people of color and Black communities and Brown communities and AAPI communities, we see a lot of emphasis on going back to the elders, working together, doing these things together. So it's really illuminating to see that aspect of I had this relationship 6 years prior. I had some touch points, but not really. But in a time of crisis, I was a space of home and peace and being able to mitigate. I wrote down for Mark, I'm an anomaly in this field, right? And I'm thinking about all of the educators on this line who are working in many spaces where they're one face, one story, one problem child. Sometimes I'm the problem child. Um, Bringing about a perspective of an entire community of students that are often unheard. And then Taji talking about juggling all of the things, right? For many of our students, we see them as administrators, not this one, but as administrators, we can see them as numbers on a page and forget about their very, very married stories, things that they're bringing into the classroom with them, all that they're juggling. And then hearing Taji also say, and while I have all these responsibilities, I'm also grateful because I have this privilege to do these things. Um, and so, with all of that, I'm going to ask the next question, and I'm going to get us kind of into some meat and potatoes. When we think about the state of America right now, it can be troublesome for any communities of color, but particularly for Black men. So, I'm going to lead us there. Um, as a practitioner, both Kendrick and Mark, what are some tools that Black men should have access to because they're constantly seen as a threat or a target? And Taji, what are some things that I'm asking the same question for you, but what are some things that you've tapped into at El Camino College that may have helped with any of the microaggressions or macroaggressions that you may encounter? There's a whole lot, so I'm going to put the question in the chat so that you remember. But I'm going to pick on Mark first as an anomaly, right? You've already
Sure.
talked about this.
Yeah, so thanks, Sasha. So one thing I would say, or two things. One, you got to find someone to talk to. You have to find someone to talk to, whether that be a therapist, that'd be great, or just a mentor, right? It's important to have a mentor in your life as a whole, right? And I can speak to that because my mentor has passed, but I had a mentor in my life from, I would say, after college up until through working corporate America up until I got married. So probably like 25 years that like was almost like a second father figure, but a business person and a life person. So it was almost like a life coach, if you will, but he helped me through a lot. And so as we navigate these tough, troubling times, find someone to talk to. Just find someone that you can bounce ideas off of, get perspective off of, and just someone who can provide insight for you, things that you're going with you, and just hold space for you. So that could be a therapist, could be a mentor, could be a life coach. All those things can happen, but find someone to talk to. That's what I would say.
In the same spirit, I would say community. Like I think that and echoing what Mark is saying, but it's specifically having a community space that you can go into, especially if you're navigating the institutional systems where if you're the only face or you're the only this, it can feel very lonely, very challenging, and very unaffirming. So having a community of folks that you can go to, that you can connect with, relate to, but also be built up, and see different possibilities beyond what you're experiencing. uh, that is very much a needed space because folks will have you believing you crazy. When you the only sane one in a room full of, then you gonna eventually you gonna feel like that way. I was at a place one time when, if you've ever seen the TV show The Office, I saw I saw it one time. I was like, this is not my speed. Turn around. I worked at this particular location, and I was like, I looked at the show again just randomly, and I was like, oh my god, this is hilarious. Like, I get it. And I was like, I'm Jim, and Jim's supposed to be like the stable one, but every now and then you notice Jim get roped up into it too. And so that's the journey. It would have you roped into this, all this uneasiness. So having a place and community that can encourage you, that can check you, that can support you, that can, hold that space of silence with you as well, and affirm that from a cultural space too, is very important. And I think communally, we've had that. Like, as much as we talk about, mental health wasn't a thing, we had the supportive factors of mental health dynamics all around us a lot of the times, right? Be it the church, be it the community space, be it if we got Uncle Walter out there on the street, but he knew he could come get a plate because the guidelines, you come to the back door, get your plate, but don't come here bringing all that mess in here, right? So it was like we had elements of things that we could lean into. And so I appreciate the fact that we have this new language that everyone can kind of attune to, but also let's not forget the cultural and the communal things that have always been there. And because culturally it looks a little bit different. I got the big homie over here that was like, you don't need to be out here in these streets. You need to get these books. Like, what I'm saying? Even in that expression of it too. So that real communal experience, I think, is something that we have to work, especially as men who can be in silos, who can start, feeling like we can't talk, we can't share. We have to remember that there's a community, the barbershop, right? We have to remember that, sometimes we have to build what we need too, and sometimes we don't know. So, but in that space, there are those dynamics that are there.
Just foreshadowing and Mr. Mark and Mr. Kendrick, what they were saying, is brotherhood and community, especially on El Camino. I have a couple of brothers that I have, and every morning before school start, we just gather up and we just pray. We just pray, and that's very important to let God enter this our El Camino community and our brotherhood, so we can be prepared for what's at stake or what's at storm. And we do Bible studies, and it's very beautiful. Not just beautiful, but it's just very uplifting, encouraging, and just understanding the wisdom and everything God was talking about, and He already prepared for what's here. Um, and just loving on each other. I believe like just I believe I'm a lover boy at heart. Like, I love my family, I love my friends, I love my father, my mom, and the brothers and the people that surround me. And so I try to spread the love as much as I can, even when I feel low, and I'm like, I'm not feeling it today. You know, I just want to be alone. I just want to have my space alone. They be like, what, brother, I still love you. At the end of the day, I'm gonna pray for you, and I'm always here. And it's just very heartwarming, very heartwarming. So
Thank you all for sharing. One of my favorite quotes is by Bell Hooks, and it's very simple. It's just healing is done in community. And it is a fallacy to believe that true healing, internal healing, can be done alone. So I always gotta sneak in a Black woman author, if you know me. But um, I now pass the mic for Dr. And you all spoke to that. Dr. White got the next question.
Thank you. And yeah, what you all are saying is resonating with me deeply. But I want to take it back to the kind of a previous question and a previous comment, I guess, that Tajay made, and then also I heard Kendrick kind of reiterate just a second ago. Tajay said something earlier, like, as a Black man, the stereotype is that you can't cry, you don't have feelings. And Kendrick just mentioned this idea of, you can't talk, we can't share, and we work in silos, right? And that's a stereotype. I'm not sure there may be a kernel of truth to that, but for the majority of it, that's a stereotype, right? Excuse me. So just hypothetically, or just kind of in a general sense, where do you think that stereotype stems from or comes from? And is that stereotype healthy? Does it help? Or is it detrimental in terms of Black men dealing with their own social, emotional, and mental health needs and the things that they deal with on a day to day? And I want to start with Tajay, throwing that question to you. I'll put it in the chat.
I would say, I would say like it doesn't help when we just not talking to somebody and we silent and we think, we Superman, and it comes a time where like we're by ourselves, and it could be very troubling. There's times I'm by myself and I'd be like, man, am I like am I soft? Like I don't have do I have anyone to talk to? Like do I does anybody love me at times? Like do I have a helping hand? Um and I feel like just talking to somebody, talking to a father figure, or a brother, or even a sister, or someone that you love, and just be like, what, I just need someone to talk to. It is very, very important. And we shouldn't, put that on ourselves, or like, feed ourselves like these thoughts where like it's eating ourselves alive, slowly but surely. So I would say it's very unhealthy. So
Thank you. Let's yeah, I see you came off of mute, Mark. I was gonna go to you.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say, I think it's, I'm not sure where the stereotype stems from, but I think it's not just a black man stereotype. It's men in general. I think all men we're trained not to cry, be tough, get through it, right? And as men too, this is gender specific. Men, we speak in headlines, women speak in details. So we don't already talk enough as it is. Like we need to talk more. Being in relationships and everything else, one thing that I work with couples on and men is you have to communicate. You have to bring your feelings to board and feel safe. A lot of times I don't know where the stereotype comes from, but like we just don't do that. And so it's important to be able to like, yes, you can cry. It's okay. Yes, you can do these things, right? This is interesting. I had a black male in my office and we're talking about him being in therapy. And he was saying that he did not want to tell any women that he's dating that he was in therapy because they would view him as being weak. And I was like, wait, whoa, what are you talking about? First of all, any woman that knows that you're in therapy, that is a good thing. You're working on yourself and you want to get better. So I don't know how he got that in his head, but that's where he was. And I was like, that is not the way to be thinking about these things, right? So it's out there. We have to just do a better job of creating awareness for it. All of us collectively creating safe space for people so that we can bust down that stereotype. But yes, it's okay to cry and being emotional. It's fine. But same general, we have to feel safe to do that, right? And so wherever community we're involved in, you have to make it feel safe so we can express ourselves.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mark, because that's the dynamic. If we look at the manosphere right now, if we look at all these podcasts, brothers ain't got no problem talking. We'll get out there and we'll snitch on themselves at times. We'll get up there and talk all the business. So to that point, it's not a fact that we don't necessarily ever talk, but do we have a safe space to talk, or a space where we can be heard, we can be validated? Uh, and I think that nuance around being seen as weak is also about who says that, and is that the right type of person, woman you need in your corner, right? But that's also about being exposed to different things, and I think a part of this space also comes from the institutionalization of it, right? Because institutions typically they just want the professional aspect of who you are. They don't want to hear about your feelings. They don't want to hear about what's going on in your life. Can you do the job? Can you get the results and give us the product? And so I appreciated Mark's piece about being a person-centered approach, because when you person-centered, then you allow space for that to happen, right? But then when you think about how we raised, when is the time that you see a man cry and everybody be cool with it? When he's winning a championship, right? Or something like that. Maybe if the homie or some, close family member, gets, taken. But outside of that, if you crying, then something wrong with you, or you weak, or you too sensitive and whatnot. So it's like we don't necessarily grow up in a space where we're taught how to acknowledge the feelings, feel the feelings, express the feelings in a healthy way. And so a lot of men are walking around not connected to exactly what they're feeling at times, and that results in a lot of other issues as well. And then, like I said, it's a man thing too. So then and we're looking at different situations where we're recognizing different communities where it may be a single mom expressing what they feel manhood is, right? Or you had this young man who grew up with a very stoic father who didn't express their, and so that's where they're learning. And so these generational expressions of not being tapped into emotion are very much just kind of passed down and whatnot. And so it's not until somebody chooses to do something different or recognize whatever this was that we've been doing ain't working. So I need to do something else, right? So I think all those nuances kind of come together. And even I think there's a dynamic where how do we get exposed to being able to understand who is a safe space? Because sometimes we'll turn to people and then this ain't somebody you should probably be leaning into. And I think as a father, like I'm grateful that my daughter would come to me or come to her mom to be able to talk and process things versus her friends, because they trying to figure it out themselves, and that's a lot of times. And if depending on what your parental dynamic is, do you have parents that you can actually go and talk to? Are they processing? And I knew growing up, I think part of the reason that I'm in the field, because when I was like 13, I remember taking out the trash with my mama, and she turned around and she started talking some stuff to me. I was like, I didn't even know what a therapist was. I was like, should you be talking to a therapist? And not even knowing. But I think that speaks in this generational trauma that is impacting this, and we think about the roots of enslavement and how that's impacted our community. So when we talk about these institutional things that have impacted our community over the years, all that has had lasting effects, has played different points. And then there's the personal responsibility about how do we look to maneuver and grow through these, because even when we grow up in that space and we see that it's not working, are we willing to do something different? And fortunately, I think a lot of folks have, and especially if you've navigated education, you see that, oh, this hasn't been working. We need to do something different. But I think it's just so many pieces that kind of infuse and impact those dynamics. So that's my 2 cents.
Wow,
Thank you.
that's powerful, really powerful. Kendrick, you kind of started to unpack some of those pieces when we talk about mental health issues, particularly in the Black community. Um, as people of former enslavement, right? I am of the thought community that it is also infected us in a way that is DNA based, that we are now generationally, so impacted and so affected by what has occurred because behavior had to be survival, right? And I think our bodies, for most Black African American folks, is consistently in survival mode, right? Protection, survive, protection, survive, protection, survive. And so I think definitely those have roots for creating major mental health issues. So here's the next question. How has social media contributed to the need for greater mental and emotional health support? How has social media contributed to our need for greater mental and emotional health support? Taj, we're going to go with you first because you're youth, right? You're tapping into this sucker probably every hour and a half. I don't know. No, he said no, no. But you are part of that generation that you have now kind of grown up on social media. So tell me your thoughts, your feelings, your reflections on this question.
Well, social media. Um, I don't even know how to answer this question. Wow. When it comes to social media and like mental health, just in, general for, women, for men, um, it all depends on what you intake in social media, because a lot of things could be true, a lot of things could be false, and that's when research come into play. Who are these people that you're listening to? Are they good? Are they bad? Or are they talking about certain things that they're not supposed to be talking about? And I think uh my my generation of social media, we grew up on this, like, flashy car, flashy diamonds, we gotta have a big house, the beautiful girls, and they kind of forget like the mental aspect of that, like it's hard when you see like all this stuff in social media, and then when we're in life, in real life, day to day, every day, we don't see these things. We see regular houses, regular cars. We just see people walking. And it's like, I think it all depends on your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed. And me, I have not been on social media for like a year or two because I just feel like it's just fake. I think most of these things on social media is really fake, and it influence kids and young men to do certain things they're not supposed to be doing. And during that time, like when I feel so overwhelmed with social media, I just kind of like just close my phone and I just listen to worship music, and I just really just kind of like pray, and this is what I do on an everyday thing, and I kind of got in the routine of doing that. So yeah, that's my experience with social media.
So really you've made a choice to disconnect it.
Yeah, I'm in the choice to disconnect it because it was affecting me and my mindset and how I was doing things, and it
Yeah.
wasn't real. It wasn't real. So
Wow. 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 Powerful. Powerful. Kendrick, what's your perspective, brother?
Uh, I'm gonna bring it out to technology, because when I came up, it was about the TV and what are you looking at? Because I was one of them TV babies. And then you think about how parents will give their kid a laptop or iPad or whatever, and let that take care of them so they can be distracted or do whatever they do while they scrolling social media. And I think the challenge of social media in that is not help making people feel connected when they're not really connected. You can see what's going on in somebody's life, but you don't really know them. You don't feel, or maybe you feel like you way more connected than you are, because you might scroll but you see them in person, you can't say nothing because you don't really deal with them. Or you might speak to something that they have going on because they posted it online, but there's no real connection. And then just seeing it as some youth who don't have the communication skills to just go up to somebody and speak a need or speak and say hello, or to be able to navigate that, or the anxiety that comes from being able to see all the things happening in the world, or if your feed is giving you all the brother Taji talking about all the negative things that technology is technology, so you can use it for your benefit, right? And you can maybe have something that provides you an opportunity to learn and to explore some things that you didn't have or get to experience. But when it's just all the mess and the crap, and you're like, I'm big on what you feeding yourself, right? That's information that you're downloading that is impacting your spirit, it's impacting your heart, your perception of things, and now you out here thinking that you gotta y'all gonna get me go somewhere else. But you out here thinking all this stuff that probably ain't the reality. Like now you worried about women wanting men to work, have $500 before they take them out when they make the woman you need to be looking at no way. So, it's like it can really shift, misalign the reality of what is actually there, and whatnot. And it's does a great job of like helping folks disconnect. And so I think that part, if you use it well, it can really be a tool to enhance your experience, and you can learn some things. But unfortunately, I don't think that's the way a lot of people use it.
Yeah, and I think the ability for a teenager to discern, right?
Right.
How I'm using it, when I'm using it, discern, as Taj talked about, the reality from what's being fed to me, what's being encouraged to me. Mark, I'm going to take it to you, but I'm going to add a piece because this recently, my husband is has a nonprofit, and every year we have a group of students who come to USC as a part of a leadership communications and debate piece. So last year they did a debate on social media and the impact of the mental health. And recently the US Surgeon General has now called out social media as being an issue of mental health for youth, being one of the number one issues of concern and cause for mental health. So as a mental health practitioner, what is your stance? What is your view?
I agree with you. I concur 100%. I mean, the to underscore what Kendrick and Taj were saying too is there's too much information, right? And a lot of it, most of it is fake, right? And so we there's too much time spent on these doom scrolling, right? And I'm guilty. I'm doom scrolled. It's fine, right? But to your point, Dr. Helen, too, you got to have discernment, right? And of what you're taking in. And there's so much information out there. It's like, okay, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? I have a client who I'm working on him with his confidence, right? And doing things to make himself better. And he sends me reel after reel, and I say, okay, listen, stop sending me this stuff on social media. I don't want to hear another Instagram post of this or that because one person says A, this person says B, person says C, you take it all in. I'm like, Just stop." I said, just, I wanted to be like Taja and just get off the internet altogether. But I get that. But it's like, you can spend that time scrolling and doing something more productive with your life. Like, go work out, go do something better, right? But yes, it is a problem. Um, the, the challenge, though, is that with social media and technology is everybody's on it, right? And so our future is going to be that. So if you're not on it and not knowing what to do, you're going to get left behind in the job market and everything else. So it's a fine line of how much do you be on it? What do you use? What sites do you go to? All those things. And that goes back to parenting, right? And how you parent your children and give them access or not access to help them get through because most of the, not most, but a lot of the people that suicides or teenage suicides, it's because something they read on social media that someone says about them, that they feel bad about themselves, and they go on this thing. So it's definitely a problem. Um, and I'm glad the government is stepping up to do something about it, but we got to do more because it's it's gonna wreak havoc on our children, which is already is doing.
Yeah, we actually, thanks, Dr. White. He found the post. So the U.S. Surgeon General has actually created an advisory in it that they believe it's a crisis. And so if it ain't going away, and it ain't, we have to start dealing with this open and honestly as we work with our children. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you all for the conversations. I have thoughts and feelings, and I'll reserve most of it, but I do want to just illuminate the Q&A is buzzing. And so there is a lot of conversation about what it looks like specifically for the Black community. There's a lot of conversation of our roots in chatteling, because I don't call it slavery anymore. I had the privilege of going to Ghana, and it is human chatteling. Slavery is too nice of a word for what actually took place. It was human trafficking, stealing, and chatteling of Black bodies. There's a lot of conversations about that. The statistics and information people are finding, the article from the U.S. General, that's got put down there. There's a lot of conversation about algorithms and what it looks like for social media. I do want to go back, I think Mark or Kendrick said it's also a tool, right? Many of you found out about our webinar today because you were doom scrolling and the algorithm somehow led you to P2P, right? And so there is this unique balance, and there's this give and take, right? It's also some of the ways that a lot of us are finding out about news across the world, not our nation, across the world or in our nation, of things that were happening that we would not have had access to. So, you know, I'm I'm the difficult child always in the room, so I'm gonna leave it. Oh, I see you on mute, Mark. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say one thing to your point. I have a lot of clients that come in my office sheepishly and they go, I was just on ChatGPT. And I was like, that's fine. Go use as much as you want. I mean, whatever you can get off it, it's fine. But know that, I'm the human body you want to talk to too. But do both. Why not? So yeah.
Fine. I think the answer is find the healthy balance that works for you. And I like what Taji said about, like, I have to unplug to make sure that, because what I was consuming was not healthy, right? Just start looking up cats and penguins and dolphins. This is a lot of my algorithms. It's just Mermaid City. Just start looking up dolphins and change your algorithm a little bit. I don't know. Works for me though. Um,
But
and sh-
I think the other thing is, one of the most important things I think we can do for our babies is to help them to develop critical thinking skills, because the critical thinking skills that you develop help you to develop the discernment to disconnect, to see reality, to see not reality. And I think that, Kendrick, you talked about it, not just sitting in front of a television. We can have television, but we watch it together with our kids so that we can have a conversation about it afterwards and say, now you understand this is not how the real work. If you're watching the Power series, folks ain't running around in cars, and let's just have a reality check, right? And I think that's the critical thinking skills that I think some of our families and communities are struggling without. And so you'll have a harder time figuring out discernment if you got to learn how to critically think, right? You got to say, some of this just don't sound right to me, right? The emperor has no clothes. It was a kid that said, I'm sorry, the emperor is naked. What's going on here, right? And so it is out of the mouths of babes, right? We talked about this yesterday, that the truth always is there if we just listen to them. So I just wanted to add that.
yes. And there was a lot of discussion in the Q&A about it starts at home. Loneliness is an epidemic, right? And so how do you, in this day and age, build community and connection in a healthy manner, and also police or surveillance, or do the things that allow youth and young adults into access to social media without it tainting them? Like the favorite saying I say in my house is, you can't do that. Your frontal cortex is not built yet. I don't even know if that's the right language, but that's what they're gonna go to school and be like, my frontal cortex is not built yet. I don't know. I can't make that decision. Right. Which is rooted in some truth, right? Um, I have the honor of shifting us to the next question, and I'm struggling because we have tackled so much of it. But I'm curious to know from each of the professionals in the room and for a student, I think we need like a baseline. What does mental health wellness actually even look like? What should we be striving for? What is a neutrality? How do we know we're in danger? We actually need to seek something, because in our community, there's a lot of misnomers and misconceptions now. It's like, oh, you talk to somebody, you crazy, you know, something's wrong with you, right? Instead of seeing it as in the way that I view it, or view it for my friends, as if I have a trainer for my body, a practitioner is a trainer for my mind, right? If I have a nutritionist because I'm worried about what I want to put into my body and fuel my body, I have a practitioner for my mind. So I'll go to therapy as well too. Um, but what is the baseline? What does mental health wellness look like? How do we know, Molly, you in danger? You might need to talk to somebody.
I mean, how do you know you're in danger? That's a good question. I mean, um, so for therapy, right? I look at it like this. I tell people all the time. It's not just a place to come in when you're down and out and feeling bad. It's a time to come in place when you are feeling okay, right? It's a place to get another perspective on things and just to have someone to talk to. I tell my all the time, I say most people come to therapy or in my office because they want a non-biased third party. They want someone to talk to. They have no one else to talk to about anything, right? And that is what I serve as, right? Now, if the baseline could be, I mean, if you're feeling really low, you're feeling you can't do things or you have anxiety. I mean, the mental there's so many mental disorders in in the book, right? So it's like, how do you know what you have? But just like if you're feeling different about yourself or feeling something strange, then first I would say go to your doctor, right? Your primary care physician, right? Get checked out, ask questions, etc., and then get a referral to a therapist or something to further that conversation, right? And then from there, I would take it and refer you to, depending on what's going on, to a psychiatrist. There's just different levels to this, right? Um, but it's just about start with having a safe place to share, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. And most people don't know this, and when I tell them this, they're shocked, is that most therapists that are good therapists have a therapist, right? So yes, I have a therapist that I go to and bounce ideas and talk things through, right? That would be something that would be good practice, right? So yeah, so that's the way I'd answer that question.
I think for me, kind of adding in that is how are you thinking and feeling, right? If we talked about a mental, but that has physical effects in terms of how we register anxiety, fight or flight, all these dynamics about how we're navigating life, which ultimately it does, have a big piece in terms of our mindset, in terms of how we thinking through things. When I'm doing trainings, I always ask if folks are optimists, pessimists, or realists, right? And a lot of times, when the realists raise their hand, 90% of the stuff that they talk about is the negative stuff. And if you're a realist, you'll be able to look at the positive things that may happen as well as the negative. And if you aren't looking at the positive things too, then you're probably a little bit more on the pessimist side, but you just trying to call it being realistic. Uh, in thinking about our mindset as we're navigating experiences and how are we talking to ourselves and what are those conversations like, I think that because that also depends like what is your nervous system doing, and recognize that some of the environments that we're in, like we're in survival mode, right? And then for those who've been able to kind of make it out and either develop our own business or get education and elevate out of those spaces, but we're still operating in survival mode, and that's not serving us either because when you break your leg, you walking with crutches. When your leg get better, that crutch is slowing you down, right? And it's making your movement a little bit more dysfunctional. So I think all of those things is it's environmental. It's how do you keep your space? Like if your external world is a reflection of your internal world, and your external world looks like what are we doing in here? Then that might mean something in terms of what's happening internally at times, right? So I think is how are you going about thinking, how are you processing your feelings, communicating, what do your relationships look like? Are you just people pleasing and keeping the people around because if you don't do what they say, then they won't be around? But is that a genuine relationship? you know, and those are the right type of people that you want in your life, right? And so that sensibility of understanding how you actually feeling and processing, and what does it look like when can you sit down and just take a rest? And what happens when you do that? Do you get overwhelmed because now all these feelings that you've been running from start flooding you and you don't know what to deal with it? Um, So all these things. So for me, I'm gonna just break it down to like, how are you thinking and how are you feeling, and what does that do? Like, can you allow yourself to be at peace, or do you have any place where you can have peace and kind of have a moment to sit and resolve and hang in that space and be okay with just being? And that's a challenging space for a lot of us.
Just going off of Mr. Kendrick and him saying like, your thinking process, how are you feeling? Sometimes I forget, like I literally just wake up in the morning and I just go about my day sometimes. Like I don't even think. And I literally just wonder, like, why is my day so iffy or foggy or grayish sometimes? And I'm like, dang, I haven't got the time to myself to ask myself, like, how are you doing? You know, how much sleep did you get? Did you eat today? How are you feeling? Um, can you call on someone? And I think that's just very important. And so, with that all being said, is I think just journaling, your day out, every time you can, get some peace or get some time to yourself, get like a mini journal, get your phone, and just, journal to yourself, express yourself. And, while you're expressing yourself through your journaling, you can be like, okay, this is what I need to do better. I could have done this morning. It's just like a self mirror in your journal, you know. Um, and yeah, that's I think that's what's up.
Wow, powerful, powerful. Um, I think we have maybe time to do a couple of more questions, Dr. White, Dr. Knox, and then we can open it up for Q&A to our audience because we got a lot of Q&A questions for you guys. So maybe one more question, Dr. White, and then we'll shift to Q&A. What do you think?
Sure. I have a question again that's based off of something that was said a few, comments past, and it was made a comment made by Mark that talked about, in this field, I'm an anomaly, right? As far as being a black male therapist, black male practitioner, and in this, by the same token, as far as like a black male in education, you know, some of us on the call are anomalies as well. So, just with that being said, and with that sentiment being out there, how do you think we could get more Black males interested in the field of mental health and wellness, being providers, and then also get, I guess, more in the field in terms of being people that receive services for mental health and wellness? And I'll start with you, Mark, and then we'll hear from the other gentleman.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes down to just more networking opportunities, more social functions where people are at that are like that I could attend to, or my, black colleagues that I network with can attend to, in a space where we can just be that space, right? I did a couple years ago, a career fair at San Diego State, had a booth, did all those stuff. So all that type of stuff, just trying to create awareness is the only way I think it's going to be able to happen. And the people that I have seen, that it goes back to referrals. So if I work with you and I do good work with you, then you need to, if you can, refer people out because that's how we get business and that's how the word gets out. So the more people that know about us in the field, one who might want to do it or be use those services, it's just referrals and networking. I think that's the only way it's going to happen, um, in my opinion.
I would say, in the words of Kendrick Lamar, gotta make it look sexy. Uh, I say that in the sense of, it's funny because I was having a similar conversation around, growing up in certain environments, and you know, you're a single parent, or you're the product of a single parent, and from a young age, you've already been told that you're the man of the house. So when you start seeing yourself in that light to some degree, you need to make a living immediately. You don't feel like you have 10 some odd years to spend towards education. And if I think just that's the reality of, like, you're going through this process, like you got to go through some days where you're gonna be eating ramen and beans out the can, like, and and if that's up against, I can make a geo a day doing something, that will potentially put my life on the line, or be the jail, or losing it. Is that a gamble? That might be a gamble I'm willing to take, right? So I think there's a certain layer of how do we socialize uh, away from the instant gratification. I think it does challenge us to look at the more institutional impacts of how we growing up in these environments and how we see in the future. Just working with some young men, along my journey, just they don't see themselves living past 21, living past. So when you have that type of mindset, you don't see yourself with a future. So it's like, what am I going to be going to school or doing all this other stuff for if I can't see myself getting to tomorrow anyway? So when we talk about even going back to the social media, there's a dynamic around values. Like, what do we value in terms of growing up and developing? So how do we instill those values that, from a communal expectation or from a future expectation, to be able to get beyond the spaces that we may be finding ourselves in, to where we do value education or the experience of education? I think that's another dynamic of, talk about Black males navigating education and how challenging that is in the prison, school to prison pipeline, and those dynamics. All that impacts, I think, and then we go back to how we socialize to express feelings, and how are men who communicate receive when they express their feelings, right? So now you're telling me to go to a field that, where do I see the validation in that in any other aspect of my life, and let alone for that to be something that I can build a livelihood off of. And don't get me wrong, I'm in it. It can be done, but it's how do we show that, and being able to see Mark's journey, and how do we kind of make these experiences a little bit more known, or even shown how important they are to some of our favorite people, to our athletes, some of our favorite athletes and actors and whatnot. They wouldn't have maintained and been able to be who they are without some level of someone supporting them through their mental health. So I think there's another piece of us really being able to understand the many different facets and ways that it shows up, and how it can be lucrative, and being able to appreciate what that journey is. And maybe that instant gratification may not be there, but I know I'm in a space where others can lean on me and I can lean on others, but in particularly because of the work that I've done in that, it helps that journey. So how can we kind of build that capacity for others to kind of see that, and switch up the socialization of men being able to connect and with emotions and communicate?
Oh, um, going off the Mr. Mark and Mr. Kendrick, just kind of like taking, pieces from them both is for sure, just networking. Me, I am not a big person in networking, for I could say myself that I am like truly by myself unless I'm spoken to, and I need to get out of that in a sense, because it's and this life is not just about me. I have to be a vessel for everybody else that needs help. For like my brothers or any other brother that's here and is just walking around, just need someone to talk to. I can't be selfish in my prideful ways and be like, somebody's gonna talk to me. So I have to get out that and um and just going out. Like for example, like me and a few friends, like every other weekend, um, I probably have like 10 brothers and we just go out on a run. We go on a little mile run, walk the hills and hike, and we just talk about our day. Sometimes we even talk smack to each other, but it's just a brotherhood thing. It's just the love that we have for each other, and I think that's something I have to get out of is just networking and not being afraid to speak up myself at times. Because I feel like when I speak up, I'm not heard or nobody's listening. And it's like, who cares if they're not listening? God's listening at the end of the day, you know. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. Um, And yeah, I for sure say networking and speaking up. Yeah.
Thank you all
Mhm.
for this dynamic, healthy conversation that we've had this afternoon. Dorinda, I know you're going to need your camera off, but do you want to start throwing out some of the questions from the Q&A that we can direct to our panelists?
Absolutely. And I'll try to turn my camera on. If it skips around, don't mind me. But
Okay.
we have a lot of comments, a lot of books to read. So check that out. I think Sasha tagged one of them. Grandmothers, what is it? We'll come back to that in a second. But we do have an actual true question, which says, what are some effective ways colleagues can intentionally support the mental health and sense of belonging for Black students?
Wow. Why don't we start with the student? Tahaj, why don't you tell us what we can do as professionals to support your mental health and your sense of belonging on your campus? What can we do better? What's being done for you already? But why don't we start with you?
Um, I would say like we as like young Black students, and it goes just for young Black men and young Black women at the end of the day, because we all need each other and
Mm,
we all love each other. And I feel like I think we just need more like, for me, I would say don't sugarcoat a lot of things, like don't be like, hey, you can do this, or just be thorough. I'm a type of young man that I come from a thorough family, and I'd rather you just be thorough with me and just not sugarcoat anything. Like tell me if I'm doing this right, or tell me if I'm doing something wrong, and how can I do better.
hmm.
Um, and through that, just showing just love and appreciation, because we understand. Like I understand from my perspective, like my mom is not perfect. My father's not perfect. They make mistakes, and I believe we all make mistakes. And I just think just showing love and affection, just hugs. I believe all like you know adult women, adult men, like they have just they're just mothers and fathers. Like they're just mothers and fathers in a sense. We just need more so of that. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. I love that. Mark?
Yeah, I say just normalize it more in the classroom, I guess. Let it know that this is something that's okay. People do it. It's another resource that you can utilize and tap into, and it's a positive thing, right? And just normalize it and provide them resources if you have anyone, or just point them in the direction, and so they can know that that's the thing that they can tap into.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Kendra?
Um, I'm gonna say be the example. It's one thing to say all these things, but then when it comes up,
That's it.
I don't see what you I see what you doing, and what you doing don't look like what you trying to tell me to do. I grew up in a very, do as I say, not as I do
Me too.
atmosphere. And when I tell you, that's where a lot of my confusion comes from, because
Yes.
what is the right thing if you're telling me to do this, but I see you doing the direct opposite, right? So I think when we talk about even being leaders in spaces, one of the things I experience a lot is I go in and I'm teaching culture responsive and teamwork and all these different things, or trauma informed care to these organizations, to the workers, because that's how they want them to treat the clients. But the organization doesn't treat their own workers like that.
Come on now.
So it's kind of like you're missing the mark in that. So I say just be the example of what you want them to do, and whether it's taking that moment to be vulnerable enough to be like, hey, I'm dealing with some stuff, I can't show up at my best, but I'm here. Whatever that needs to look like that you want others to do, let's just be that example.
Wow. Powerful.
And I know I'm not a panelist, but I love what
Please.
Mark said. And I want to circle back to that where he was like, a good therapist has a therapist, right? So I normalize in all the space that I go into, like I out myself. I'm in therapy. Oh, I can. There, you have a political answer. You know why I have a political answer? Because I have a therapist, and I'm gonna tell on them later what I really want to say. But in this space, I'm remembering what Dr. Stacy is saying in the back of my head, right? And I think that goes back to what Kendrick was just saying and being the example, right? I'm not just telling you to drink your water and have your 10 minutes of vitamin D and take a walk and take a deep breath and process. I'm actually doing these things for myself. And I will avidly say, I have a therapist. I have no problem with my children seeking therapy, right? I am in all the spaces to make sure that we are holistic beings and being our best self, and whatever tools that we need to access to resource that allows us to do that. A colleague of mine, Dr. Taylor Nichols, did a study and research specifically on professors disclosing that they also had learning disabilities in the classrooms with both universal learning design and non-universal learning design. And the study yielded that the classes where students recognized that they also had neurodiverse faculty members or teachers or practitioners leading them, then their student success was higher. Imagine if that's the case for mental health. I don't know, nobody did a study. Somebody at San Diego State, not USC. San Diego State now needs to now needs to do that study because I'm curious to see the efficacy in student success and retention of that. But be a living example of these things. Now, don't lie. Don't be not in therapy, unhealed, telling people to go to therapy because we're gonna be like, we won't be like her, right? Um, but don't be afraid to out yourself in these things. Or just like Kendrick said, let people know, hey, I'm having a tougher day today. My reaction might be a little slower, a little too fast, or it might be spicy. I'm just dealing with some things. And I don't have to tell you all of those things because you're not privileged to that. You don't have access to me in that way. But you can be authentic and real in that way as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. Powerful.
Yeah,
Dorinda, do we
very.
have another one?
We do. And yes, Dr. Knox, thank you for that. And everyone, quite honestly, it is very, very important that others are, in my opinion, able to see you and see what you're doing and see your light that you're bringing and to speak and get out of their own thoughts, their own brain, because that is really what shapes our reality. And
Mm,
so told like seeking therapy is weak, or if we don't talk about emotions, or just shut up and pull your bootstraps up, keep on walking. Nobody cares about it. Just, that's good. That's fine. You can have your 2 minutes to vent, and then I'm gonna need you to get up and make this dinner. You know what I mean? So I think that that's really important for us to normalize that as a culture, to be able to communicate what we're going through and our feelings. And I only wonder what impact that could make. So yeah, I second SDSU. Someone from SDSU absolutely do that study. We do have another question, um, which did just disappear, actually. But the book is called My Grandmother's Hands.
mm.
And okay, so Jeremiah Sims is saying that is our homework. We all must read that book.
Thanks, Jeremiah. We love
Yes,
homework, Jeremiah. Thank you.
more homework, but hopefully this one really helps.
Yes, love it.
So
Let's
that's
see.
I'm gonna use this promo opportunity
Please.
Do it.
because the album that I'm dropping soon is called Clean Pain, and it's based off Resmaa Menakem's concept of clean pain, dirty pain in the book, where dirty pain is the maladaptive coping skills we develop from drinking, smoking, all that good stuff, and then clean pain is going to therapy, is working out, is having the tough conversation, is navigating your conflict, it's working on yourself to build the capacity to kind of show up in ways that you need to versus trying to escape.
Hmm.
So, yeah, love that book and some great jewels in there. And the
Oh,
name of
so
the
you,
album by the Lyrical Groove is Clean
Yeah,
Pain.
I love it. I love
I love it. I do too. Shameless plug. Um,
it.
Yeah.
Kendrick, is it something you can drop in the chat so folks can access it at some point?
You're on mute.
Yeah, I'll throw a few links in there
Please,
right quick.
please do. Please do.
Nice. Okay. Let's see. I think that this one, it says, uh, well, we just answered that. What is one immediate action we can take as professionals to better support the mental health of Black men in our work and in our communities?
You know, I'm going to take a stab at this. I know I'm part of the panel, but I think being there for our students. And I don't just mean showing up in the classroom, showing up in the counseling session, but I think when we're with our students, everything else has to go away so we can be fully present, right? Because there's so many opportunities to see what's happening with our students in these environments. If you are the individual who's responsible for checking students in, right, at the Black Student Success Center, being fully present in our positions, I think allows us to build that level of trust, because students not going to come to you if they don't trust you. And if you're not fully there, if you're not fully vested to them, they will not open up, they will not connect. And even if you're not the mental health professional that they need, if they feel that they can trust you and allow you to come into their world that they're struggling with, you can then direct them where they need to go. So releasing ourselves of when we walk into our spaces, and even if the dean has you just had a moment with the dean, no squash on dean, Sasha, but you just had a moment with your husband or your wife, if you can somehow release that when you walk into those spaces where you're serving students so that you can be fully present, I think is one of the first things we can start to begin to practice. So whatever you have to do to say before you walk into that building, all right, I know I just had a fender bender on the highway, but what can I do? I'm coming here because I'm coming to work and I need to be fully present. I would suggest, I would offer up that that's one of the things that we can immediately do. My thought.
Uh, Leaning into that, I think I taught at SDSU, and I also attended SDSU for my bachelor's. So let's just put that out there,
Go Aztecs.
right? I will also say, like to that, like as an instructor, really making that time to like check in with folks and to hold them, to a supportive accountability of, the decisions and choices that they're making or how they're navigating, and challenging them, or like, are you leaning into the resources that you have before you and whatnot, so that they aren't allowing themselves to get kind of lost in the sauce of and not believing in themselves, and holding them accountable. Like, you made it here for a reason. And I know everything might feel a little bit heavy right now, but number one, you're not alone. We gonna get through this. And there's other supports that can kind of help you maneuver through that. And so, even, what does that support look like from a staff or faculty level dynamics? And are you involved in the supportive clubs that are there or for this very reason, so that you don't feel like you're alone? So making sure, because academic can be intimidating at times, or they might not feel connected because who are the people that truly reflect my experience, but challenging them and encouraging them to get a part of the social dynamics that really support them maneuvering and navigating and receiving the help when they need it to.
Dr. Knox, Dr. White, you guys, we're in the campuses and classrooms all day long. Anything that you might add to what we can do right now as professionals?
Well, I'm not a professional in that sense of mental health. One of the things I have done that students have said is helpful. We start the day, most days in classrooms, in the in-person classroom. We start most of the days with like a 1 or 2 minute, 30-second, even sometimes kind of timed what do they call that? It's called the Insight Timer, is what the app is called, but it gives you like a minute, like a guided meditation. And so I've had
That.
students say that that's very helpful. You know, you'll see them kind of like push back on it at first. I asked them if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Nobody closed their eyes on day one, day two, but by week 13, 14, you'll start seeing even the football players closing their eyes and doing the breathing and that type of thing. So that's one thing that I try to do to bring in a level of mental, social, emotional wellness. Um, and that's kind of, where it begins and ends for me. And I refer them out to the mental health providers on my campus, particularly.
I think all the advice that has been given is really good. I just want to underscore. I asked a question like, "What does mental health wellness look like?" And Kendrick responded, "Well, how are you actually doing?" Right. And I think one of the things that you can do is just build time to check in. And as an administrator, I'm a level removed, right? I don't see students until I actively do so. But things that I do in practice is we open all of our spaces with music, and I'm using music rooted in my cultural foundation. So you can listen to what you want to, but if you come into my meeting, you're gonna listen to what I listen to, right? Um, I actively have what I call a snack cabinet. So it's just a basic need. All students know if you are looking for anything, whether I'm here or not, my administrator knows as well, my admin support knows. I might not be in this office and it's a free for all. Everyone's like, you're not afraid to leave your office door open. They're not going to take anything. They're taking snacks and food and and resources, right? Like pens and pencils and USB and all of that's always available at all times. I don't believe in locked doors and that's a whole nother thing. So, so it's just always available. And I offer just a safe space, a working space, right? And students know that they're able to find that, and it is useful, particularly around spaces when in cultural needs like Ramadan, where students just need somewhere quiet, safe to go into, or when students are encountering real basic needs and they need to do so around without a shame attached to it. And
Hmm.
in addition to those things, I don't do an insight timer, but it's a mandatory check-in. You know, if you're going to any meeting of mine, any space of mine, it's a mandatory check-in. And lastly, a student voice has to be recorded. I'm not writing a policy. I'm not putting a new rule. I'm not doing anything without a student voice because administrators love to have bright ideas.
Yep.
And I am not the cool auntie anymore. That's what I've learned from my nieces and nephews. I was so cool 5, 7 years ago. Now I just
Not
am available.
anymore.
Right. I'm a resource. I am not cool. My music is not cool. That is not what we wearing. That's not what we saying. That's not what we doing. And so imagine if I start implementing these things as policies and practices and our students are like, that's not even what we need. You created a solution that needs now another solution because that's not what we need.
Yeah.
So in all spaces that I'm in our P2P space, a student voice is required in order for us to open spaces, to learn from students and all of the things. And those are things those are easy to slip away from us, right? Because we're in the I'm in the management side of the business. But those are required for me in the spaces that I lead.
I love
Also
that.
not a mental health practitioner.
Well, we're at about the 5 minute mark. Yes, Dr.
We
Downs.
do have one final question. Yeah, and I think Dorinda's
Okay.
gonna
Because
lead us to it.
I just want to give everybody this last statement.
I know.
I want to get
Don't
that
worry.
one in. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dory.
Okay. Last question. Well, first of all, Jeremiah Sims, he has a book that it looks like Dr. White did a review on. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So we'll shamelessly also plug that, which is
In the
Finding
chat. It's in the
Path.
chat.
On Blackness Multi, it's in the chat, yes. Jeremiah also asks, and this is the final question, I think we need to qualify this idea of normalization. Uh, Antonic Gramsci, excuse me if I messed that up, argued that hegemony, power over domination, is at its essence a battle over what counts as commonsensical.
Hmm.
In its formation, normalizing things over power. So my question to the group is, what does this mean for us? In practicality, practically, what does this look like? That was deep. That was heavy.
Can you read that one more time?
Yes, and it is also in the chat if you want
Okay.
to
Okay.
along.
Yeah, I'm
Says
gonna grab it and put it in the regular chat.
yes. Thank you. I was just doing that. Thank you, Dr.
I
Young.
got you. I got
Uh-huh. So it's about this idea of what we qualify as normalization. Um, Gramsci argued that hegemony, power over domination, is at its essence a battle over what counts as commonsensical. So what we accept as common sense or like the norm or status quo. In his formation, normalizing things necessitates power, I believe. My eyes are playing tricks.
you.
So
No, you
many
got it.
Okay, you see me squinting. So many
Mhm.
question, so my question, excuse me, to the group is what does this mean for us? Practically, what does it look like? So in practice, what does it look like?
Well, I'll start here. I think first off, whenever we talk about common sense, I think we have to really understand that common sense ain't that common because
That.
it is very cultural in terms
Yes.
of what do we see as common sense. As black folk, when we see somebody run, it's common sense that we gonna start running. I don't need to know why, right? For others, it's gonna be like we need to ask questions. That's not what we're doing here. We're about to run this marathon, right? So I think starting with that understanding of what aspect of identity, and this is where we get into challenges with institutionalism, white supremacy, and you know all these dominant culture things. Because then in those moments, are we shifting the culture that we're actually adhering to, right? When we think
Mm.
about, this a communal experience that we come from versus trying to fit into a very egocentric experience, because you're gonna, or a person centered versus a product centered, or power centered approach to how we're navigating decisions and community and connection and getting things done. We see a lot of this taking place now because even in like these data centers that they're putting that are impacting all this water and taking that away from the environment, and then thinking about how do we deal with youth having programs versus high-end stores, or just all these different dynamics. We got all these Airbnbs, but we don't have good housing, right, for folks to actually be able to live in. So I think to that degree, not that I'm giving any solutions in this very moment, but I think that is the piece where we have to reclaim what are the values that we're actually allowing to lead how we're showing up and governing our spaces, and how can we attain the power or decision making capacity to lean into that. What does that look like? So
Right. And it looks like Jeremiah, thank you so much for clearing that up. He said he had so many typos in that. So I think that, that helped us in getting a little lost on the question. But to clarify it, he said, because panelists are advising us to normalize certain things around mental health. So how is it that we do this without institutional power? So that's where the normalities come into play. If anyone else has something to speak to about that.
Well, yeah, yeah, thanks for that question. And when I say normalization, it's just making students or people aware that therapy is okay, right? It's not a bad thing. And it can be a tool as with any other things that you have in your toolbox, whether that's mentorship, meditation, prayer, exercise, all those different things. Therapy is okay. It shouldn't be frowned upon like, oh, you're going to therapy. Like if you do it, it's okay. And I have lots of students, high school students especially, that their teachers are excusing them from class to come to therapy during the day, right? So there makes space for them to go, hey, you can go to therapy, not a problem. Go handle it and come back to the next period or whatever that is. So I see a lot of students during the day because they get out and come to therapy. So that's what I'm saying is normalizing. It's just like making it okay and that it's not a bad thing.
I will add this little nugget. Um, if we're looking at, I love the from a classroom standpoint, we can take 5 minutes to journal. I love the fact that uh, Dr. White was like, we do this mindful meditation, right? those are just some small nuances of things that can be done. It doesn't take a whole bunch, but we could normalize even just checking in with people and saying, "Tell me how you feeling today," or "What's one word to describe how you're feeling today, how you're stepping in," to get people to actually think about those things.
So Sash, no, wrapping up. Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you to the attendees. Thank you for these amazing questions. Hopefully you saw the flyer with Kendrick and Mark and Taji's connection ability to maybe continue this conversation with them offline or through social media. And we are so excited that you were here. We have one final piece that we would love for you to wrap up this conversation. So fill in the blank, if you will. Give us a culminating statement that says, Black men are, and you fill in the blank. Black men are, and you fill in the blank.
Exceptional.
Worth listening to.
Black men are loved.
Dr. Knox, Dr. White, y'all want to fill in the blank?
Valuable.
Powerful beyond measure.
Dorinda?
I was going to say powerful, but I will say Black men are needed, necessary. Mhm.
And I will end with Black men are the beginning, the middle, and the end.
I love that.
Thank you so much. We love y'all. Please know that we are finished with our Black Educators Table Talks for this spring, but on the horizon, we have our next sessions, which will feature our fellows. As you know, what we do here with Black educators and P2P is to look for that Black brilliance and look for that brilliance of the next educators. And so we will start featuring the fellows that have come through this program over the last 6 years, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they contribute to the profession in their various pieces of research or contributions. So, end of the month, April 27th, we will roll out our first Fellows series. So, please stay with us, stay connected to us. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook. I know Facebook is old school for us oldies, but please follow us and stay connected to us. And we again so appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Take good care, everybody. Love and blessings.
Thank you.